Hello and welcome. My name is Captain Carrie Irvin, Deputy Director in FDA's Office of Coordinated Outbreak Response and Evaluation Network, known as CORE, within the Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition. I am also lead for Core Element 1 of FDA's new era of Smarter Food Safety Initiative, Tech-Enabled Traceability, which is today's focus. We are excited to continue to highlight work being done on the new era of Smarter Food Safety, an initiative that began in 2019. As part of the new era of Smarter Food Safety, we have been focusing on tech-enabled traceability. In 2021, we conducted a global challenge to identify low or no-cost tech-enabled traceability options and announced 12 winners in September of that year. And now we are here for the first episode of the FDA Low or No Cost Tech-Enabled Traceability video series. While FDA is not endorsing any one technology or solution, we hope to serve as a catalyst for change and modernization by raising awareness of the wide range of traceability solutions that could be available for companies of all sizes. In today's episode, I will be joined by 4 traceability solution providers that are leveraging various approaches to innovate low or no-cost technologies within the food supply chain. Morpheus Network, Bamboo Rose, Nira, and iFoodDS. Varcode, a 5th company, will also be providing a showcase of their solution. We will briefly showcase each solution, then we will have a roundtable discussion to better understand the opportunities and challenges surrounding these solutions. We'll also focus on food traceability and its importance to public health. As I mentioned, this video series builds upon the 2021 FDA Low or No Cost Tech-Enabled Traceability Challenge. For that challenge, aimed at identifying hardware, software, data analytics platforms, and innovative business models, we received 90 submissions from around the world. We are excited to showcase how solution providers can help create a more digital, traceable, and safe food safety system that will benefit both consumers and food producers. We note that the views and opinions presented here represent those of the speakers and should not be considered or represent advice or guidance on behalf of FDA. Now let's explore how these 5 teams are innovating technology within the food supply chain.
Hi there, my name is Dan Weinberger. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Morpheus Network, here with a quick presentation for you guys to show you some brand new emerging technologies and how we have cost-effective, easy-to-use solutions specifically for compliance and physical asset traceability. Our positioning within supply chain is middleware, supply chain technologies. We bring it all in through our platform. Very simply, we have these amazing solutions based on all the data that we can pull in. We make the data portable, connecting all these different data silos. We won some amazing awards, including the ASEA PTAC Award for Supply Chain Excellence in 2021, which we won along with FCL, the 3rd largest food supplier in Canada. Once again, our solution just brings in all the data from all the different sources, all different handling points, all the compliance documentation, makes it very, very easy to trace all your physical assets, as well as keep track of all your stakeholders down the supply chain. Let me show you a quick demo of how easy the solution is to use. Going right into the platform here, we're setting up the workflow. We can see this information here, a shipment coming from Ecuador going to Mexico. We can pull this data directly in from an ERP such as SAP. We have our commodity information as well. We're happy with everything we see on the workflow setup. We're going to save it and get into our workflow builder. Now that we're in our workflow builder here, we see all our different modules, our active modules and available modules. We can drag and drop different modules into the workflow as required, whether it's insurance, whether it's IoT devices. We've set up here ready to have a QR code scanning. Simply set up the QR code. Anytime that QR scan down the supply chain, we get that physical asset handling point. We also have our compliance documentation. All the data that we brought in from the initial SAP ERP from that PO is ported right into this document generation system as well, automating the entire process of customs compliance. Now that we have all our different modules lined up as we want them, we can take a look at a completed workflow. Here we take a look at a completed shipment that was going from Peru into Mexico here. We can see the QR code scans as well. They're being plotted on the map. We have some document generation and documents uploaded as well, PODs, compliance documentation. We even have the bill of lading performer invoice, which we saw was set up directly through that universal data, porting the data from the ERP, creating customs documentation, and connecting it to IoT handling points, QR code handling points, all through our middleware. Super easy, super simple to implement, as well as very cost effective. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
The average grocery store stocks about 32,000 distinct products. But can grocers, manufacturers, ingredient suppliers, and national brands tell you exactly what farm or facility those products came from? Can they easily identify the source of the ingredients and sub-ingredients that make up each of these food products? Today, the answer is no. Most members of the food supply chain only have verifiable data, one layer into their supply chain network. Meet Bamboo Rose, the cloud-based multi-enterprise product and supply chain platform. The community already has thousands of companies, clients, and partner users transacting and collaborating each day. Bamboo Rose Chief Strategy Officer Brian Marsden works closely with Bamboo Rose's Tier 1 customer base to bring community-driven traceability to food and formulated supply chains.
The platform can't support just the enterprise, it needs to support the overall community, separate departments, third-party manufacturers, all the trading partners. And with that level of participation comes the traceability and visibility that people are looking for.
This strategy drives simultaneous business value and supply chain visibility for all partners. Retailers have a deeper understanding of the ingredient and sub-ingredients of the fresh, private, and national brand products on their shelves. Manufacturers have a deeper view into their own ingredient suppliers, and can elevate this data for B2B and B2C customers. Farmers can provide visibility for the lot and batch level, while digitizing the process of shipping product directly to DCS in stores. Inspection partners receive transparency on protocols and scheduling with one digital repository for audit results. Prevent, identify, and mitigate issues in today's food supply chain.
The food supply chain is made up of businesses each doing their individual parts and transacting with their immediate partners. Together, they are responsible for bringing food from farms to our dinner tables. Take a package of eggs, for example. Fresh eggs are first harvested and packaged at a farm. The farm also assigns an electronic product code, or EPC, to each of these packages. The eggs are then shipped to wholesalers. After that, they're sent to retailers, where they are finally bought by customers. There are, however, two major challenges when communicating within the supply chain. Firstly, non-contiguous businesses need to be able to discover and access product information from authoritative sources without pre-established relationships. Secondly, these businesses also need to be responsive to inquiries while protecting their privacy and trade secrets. Nira's supply chain information discovery framework addresses these challenges. Implemented as infrastructure services and exposed through APIs, the framework will allow a partner to quickly locate the authoritative source of product information based on an EPC. It will further allow the partner to prove their relationship to the product in question, and as a result, to bootstrap trust between the two organizations, such as between the retailer and the farm. The framework is built on two foundational technologies: EPCIS, a global standard for supply chain transactions published by GS1, and blockchains, because of their ability to scale and their ability to bridge trust among organizations. Our infrastructure-based approach is different from most blockchain-based traceability applications today. Because transaction data is among a business's most guarded trade secrets, It is often not practical to have pre-vetted networks in which all participants agree to share the same set of data and following the same governance policies. Instead, the level of information a stakeholder sees will depend on the level of trust they can prove. At the most basic level, having physical possession of the product will enable anyone to start the exploration process with an anonymized identifier published on the blockchain. Next, we are supporting self-issued credentials, which a partner can create from EPCIS transactions. Using the credentials, a partner can access EPCIS repository descriptions. The repository description will include further information on obtaining repository-specific credentials to access the transaction details. Because our partnership with a leading open-source EPCIS repository developer, our adherence to open standards, and our use of public blockchains, we will offer supply chain discovery services to application developers at low costs, benefiting all parties from the food industry as well as regulatory authorities, without requiring significant investments and organizational changes.
To foster widespread adoption, traceability solutions must meet the needs of all supply chain participants. The iFoodDS solution is affordable, easy to adopt, and simple to set up. It uses off-the-shelf hardware to minimize total cost. It provides instant trace-back and trace-forward across the supply chain. And it enables food safety data sharing at the lot level within one platform, or through a cloud-based data store compliant with GS1 standards. For growers, packers, and processors, our case-level traceability solution allows everyone to share data and exceed goals set forth by the FDA. We enable easy and affordable PTI label printing, including centralized GTIN management, and we're fully compliant with GS1 standards. But the iFoodDS solution is much more than label printing. Data is stored in the cloud for instant access and real-time traceback. Our pallet shipping app helps shippers, suppliers, and grocery retailers instantly trace forward. It tracks outgoing pallets and records GTINs, lots, and pack dates from each pallet and case. Suppliers can also use the iFoodDS ASN service to submit pallet traceability information to receivers in advance. Our new innovative solution securely stores connected traceability and food safety data in the cloud or blockchain during product production and is made visible through our traceability dashboard. Within the dashboard, customers can instantly trace back from a purchase order or shipment to specific GTINs, lots, and pack or harvest dates used to fulfill that order. Our unique solution also enables traceback to specific production and food safety data from the plant or field, including animal intrusion, water tests, and pre-harvest logs for a specific lot of product. The traceability dashboard can also be used to isolate the root cause of an investigation and trace forward to other lots and shipments that may have been impacted by an issue. A single, robust dashboard allows for efficient navigation of traceability and food safety data across the entire supply chain. With instant access to food safety data linked to every case and pallet, iFoodDS provides the ability to rapidly trace and identify the source of potentially contaminated food. The cloud-based iFoodDS platform allows all supply chain participants to achieve transparency. Our solution is affordable, easy to use, and complies with GS1 and PTI standards to support the need for interoperability throughout the food supply chain, all with the end goal of protecting public health and fostering consumer trust and confidence.
Varcode has a simple goal: to affordably add intelligence to a product's journey through actionable data. By enabling better traceability, visibility, and analysis for informed decision-making, the Varcode Smart Data solution fills gaps left by legacy temperature monitoring systems, extending solutions to the last mile and providing more granular information. VSDS can follow the entire cold chain from farm to fridge, but we focus on filling gaps in transport and consumer-based engagement. VSDS has 3 components in our next-gen solutions: our Smart Tag, our Scanning Suite, and our Analytics. The Smart Tag is an IoT device monitoring temperature to the last mile without the need for batteries, Wi-Fi, or networks. The tag is a dynamic barcode that changes based on time and temperature relative to a prescribed temperature range. Varcode has the ability to blend currently used barcode symbology with our Smart Tag technology, allowing for both flexibility in size and format. The smart tag can be applied in line during the production or distribution processes. When the temperature reaches the smart tag's predetermined melting point, a mixture expands and the results are displayed in the top layer. These time indicators show how long the product has been over the alerting temperature. The result shown is the cumulative time a product has spent above the set temperature. The smart tag technology does the calculations for you, so there's no need to spend time analyzing data to get your answer. The smart tag gives immediate information with more custom-tuned markers compared to incumbent systems, all without processing individual data points. While the smart tag tracks the cumulative temperature, the VSDS scanning suite leverages our novel and patented technologies to provide objective, actionable information. When scanned, results are available to both the person scanning and the company, creating instant and clear information throughout the supply chain. No other digital solutions are economically scalable, and with legacy solutions, there is room for human error in interpreting the color or change in the label. Varcode offers a more accessible UX throughout the supply chain, opening a massive addressable market even when offline. Pallet level use case. Once a smart tag is placed on the product, it begins to track its journey. As cartons turn into boxes, pallets, truckloads, and shipments, each smart tag stays with the product throughout all stages of the cold chain, monitoring the product regardless of the mode of transportation. Shipments are typically monitored with a single electronic device capturing temperature located in the front or back of a trailer, which provides required data for acceptance or rejection of a whole shipment. Monitoring at the unit level allows for partial acceptance based on which product is still usable, reducing waste, increasing product on shelves, and saving money for both the supplier and retailer. Most exposures occur during transition points, such as from the truck to the dock or from storage to shelves, where truck-level monitoring devices can't follow your product. VSDS is here to enhance and extend your current solution, making your investment go further. Meal kit use case. VSDS is also a standalone solution to better serve direct-to-consumer businesses. Placing a smart tag on a product such as meal kits allows companies to track their packages while also communicating more effectively with their customers. The smart tag economically tracks the temperature journey from warehouse to doorstep, providing integrated shipment tracking, weather, and alerts, capturing previously unavailable, actionable data for each package sent. Once a customer scans, the company receives all relevant data, and simultaneously, the customer receives updated product status along with options such as being directed to a survey, offered a coupon, or connected to social media. You know your product is safe and the customer gets the best experience possible. VSDS enables a reliable, low-cost solution for more granular data and the ability to easily communicate and verify quality down to the last mile. Using VSDS, you can confidently ensure the highest quality product and experience is delivered to your customers using temperature data and a new way of communication.
We hope you all enjoyed those interesting and informative videos. Varcode was unable to join us today, but we are pleased to be joined by 4 representatives from the other companies to participate in today's roundtable discussion. First, Dan Weinberger, co-founder and CEO of Morpheus Network. Jane Seymour Smith, product manager at Bamboo Rose. Wen Zhu, the chief architect at Nira. And Todd Berg, VP of Product Management and Sales Engineering at iFoodDS.
Okay, so the first question I have, and Dan, why don't we start with you, is how can technology companies partner with companies in the food supply chain to better understand how technology solutions will impact current business practices? Obviously, FDA has a focus on food safety, but we know there are other business practices that will be impacted. So I'll go ahead and turn it to you.
Great question. And really, Carrie, this is like the majority of our job as a software provider is to find those initial pain points, find those actual problems to solve. we could show off some amazing technology all the time, show emerging technologies, show different implementations, but it has to be specific to the companies that we're dealing with, right? And right now, a lot of compliance issues are coming up with FSMA regulations, of course, wanting to follow the modern the Food Safety Modernization Act as well. And we have all these different systems in place that leverage the most complex technologies, but it's all about finding the right solution that works well for the specific food distributor or food company involved. So again, I do put the onus on the companies like ourselves, like Morpheus Network, being the software providers themselves, to find those initial beachheads, those initial pain points. And once we have, for example, the vendor data and we're able to provide a specific solution for a client, we can land and expand from there. You can grow it out. And once you have their data, we can do some amazing things with it, create a whole bunch of automation. So once again, I think that software providers are looking for this end-to-end implementation, which is the perfect scenario. But to be honest, a lot of companies, they don't want to shift their entire business process right from the start. You got to find that small, low-hanging fruit beachhead and then work from there.
And before I went to everyone else, Dan, I just wanted to ask one follow-up question. So you talked a lot about finding those pain points, but when we talk about meshing food safety supply, business practices, and IT modernizations, we're talking about sometimes people that have two completely different fields of expertise. So how complicated is it to discuss and put these traceability solutions into place when you're working with people with varying expertise?
Fantastic question. And when it comes to food safety, obviously, as you mentioned, so many different stakeholders in play, right? We're using smallholder farmers who have to contribute data, all the way down to processing facilities, distribution centers, retail facilities, right down to the consumer end as well. And you have to tie in all those critical handling points together, right? So when you have different stakeholders involved, especially certain stakeholders where language might be an issue, inputting data might be an issue as well, it's once again up to the software providers to provide easy to use systems. They can be as complex as possible on the back end to make sure everything's running smoothly, but on the front end, they have to be made specifically for the users of the company that are interacting with the system themselves. So as an example, we have a great solution right now with Federated Co-op. They actually distribute food to 2,000 facilities in Canada. And we actually have smallholder farmers simply scanning a QR code to get that handling point, be able to contribute data, the entire data set of a digital footprint from end to end.
Thanks, Jan. Okay, Jane, how about I go over to you? Is there anything more you want to add here?
Technology companies can offer companies looking for solutions for traceability. Fundamentally, it's going to change their business. So in a couple of areas, key areas. The first area I'd like to mention is that you're talking a digital transformation, right? So you're taking vital aspects of raw materials and products, certifications, audits, and you're putting them into one source where companies can now make data-driven decisions based on what they need to do. So for example, don't place a PO with a company that's failed a food safety audit, right? So it helps companies make those decisions just by simply having all of this data digitized. The second area where I think that companies are really going to see an impact to their business is providing that traceability. You have a visibility to your raw materials that go into your products. You can see where the products are being shipped from and to the distribution centers or the end stores. So you have that traceability. And I think the last area they're really going to see an impact to their business is increasing transparency, right? So if we have all players in the same platform, from raw material suppliers to manufacturers to retailers to importers or even third-party laboratories, that obviously, they're all working with the same sets of data, so they are all collaborating together in real time.
Thanks, Jane. Wen, would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Carrie. So my perspective is probably a little bit different because I think our focus is a little bit different from Dan. We are focusing on component to be built into a solution infrastructure. In particular, we're looking at discovery of information across supply chain. So for example, right, if I'm a retailer of a package of fresh egg, right, I need to know the condition under which this package has been kept. So, I need to address challenges like where do I find a farm that produces egg, right? And once I found that farm, how do I make sure that I can prove to that farm that I have something to do with the package so that we can share information? Those are some of the things we're dealing with. Now, in that sense, in many cases, we are actually, lucky us, dealing with developers in many cases. And so what we do is we offer our components. For example, we have a EPCS compliant repository for transactions to developers as SaaS offerings. And that allows us to really work with them to understand what the use cases are and refine our product based on the feedback. So we have a loop to do that. And in a broader sense, however, I think, I guess we do have a plan to open this EPCS repository up to end users, mom and pop shops, because one of the things we feel like we can allow business to do is to have them to seamlessly integrate this cloud-based repository into their businesses. But I think in a broader sense, I think Dan was mentioning earlier, I heard that, it's like you have to work with consumers, with end users. I think that's exactly right. I think you have to look at your product and almost have a service angle to it and make sure that those two things work together. Which actually, I think, brings up a larger question in my mind, right? So today, I think technology companies almost have to play multiple roles. You're innovators, you are solution providers, you're product developers, and really I think you're actually creating a mini ecosystem. And I think what we really need is an ecosystem for traceable technologies to be adopted in the supply chain area. And I applaud FDA for the effort. I think that's a great start. I think the government has a great role to foster and encourage that ecosystem. So just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Wen, for your response to that. And Todd, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think building on what some of the other panelists have said, the important thing is not just to look for a technology company, but a company that really understands the food supply chain, and specifically the perishable food supply chain for those items that are on the FTO. There's all kinds of complexities and detail from the grower-packer side, through processing, through shipping, receiving, and all the way to grocery retail store and restaurant, that really impacts how the technology can be utilized without killing productivity and huge losses in efficiency and labor. So it's really important to work with organizations that not only have the technology, but also the expertise and understanding, the boots on the ground, on what the operational aspects in each step of the supply chain are, so that the organizations can really implement in an efficient and scalable way. If you don't have those pieces, the technology will sit on the shelf or sit in the cloud and won't be fully adopted, and therefore won't be able to comply. And if there are struggles in adoption, that's where you're going to find problems with data integrity, missing data, so that ultimately you'll have a break in the chain and won't be able to respond efficiently and completely to an FDA inquiry in the case of a food safety incident or recall.
One quick comment I wanted to make as well, just building on what Wen was saying, and also Jane was saying, and Todd as well, when you have so many different stakeholders involved and so much data all the way down the chain from end to end, it's all these different IT systems that are handling the data. So we need a form of interoperability between these different systems in order to allow the data to be dynamic, pushing ahead automation, allowing all these different parties to be syncing off the same song sheet as opposed to interpreting their data themselves in a data silo. So I think these data silos that are sort of inherent in different IT systems right now have to be broken down, and we're going to see a ton of optimization in food safety and all the way across the supply chain globally as we have interoperability between these different systems.
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Dan. And I want to come back to Todd because I think it transitions well into a discussion on what are the most important considerations and greatest barriers in enabling a transition to this at low or no cost. Having low, a key foundation of this challenge was establishing these lower no-cost traceability technologies. And, we're only speaking to the technology aspect, but Todd, I would love your input on those important considerations and greatest barriers. I know you mentioned a few, but if you wanted to elaborate.
Yeah, I think that that's a really important point. You have to look at the total cost of ownership, total cost of implementation, not just the cost of the software or service. You have to look at how it's going to integrate into the processes to save on labor and make this as efficient as possible for the organizations that are participating in the requirements for 204. I think within that, and in addition to that, you have to be looking at systems that are going to integrate with existing systems and processes. So we can't be implementing a separate system for each customer you might sell to or for different stakeholders that you might have in the supply chain. So make sure that you may already have a system that tracks your shipping CTE or your transformation CTE and KDE data, being able to have systems that integrate with those. Or you might be a less mature organization that is working with spreadsheets and paper, and you really need a digital application to be able to efficiently capture these CTEs and KTEs at the point of activity in the supply chain. I think that's really important in that there's both of those different types of options, either through data integration with systems that may already be in place, or being able to put in applications that work at the point of the traceability event, so that, because what I'm seeing a lot is people doing the activity on the shipping dock or on the transformation floor, but then having to take paperwork or other methods to bring and enter the data into a system in the front office. And then you've essentially got duplicate data entry, recording it manually or analog on the floor, and then having to have someone in the front office enter it. Really look for an application that can be utilized at the point of activity. And then that really falls back to systems that support standards, right? So that we do have that interoperability across different platforms, so that we're utilizing standards as opposed to a single universal application that has to be utilized across the whole supply chain. And being able to have that hybrid mix of applications that work in the point of activity, as well as can integrate with other systems through standards that exist in the industry for exchanging the CTE and KDE data.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, I'd like to expand on that too. I think Todd said pretty much everything that could be a greatest barrier. However, when you're talking from a retailer's perspective who's actually getting all of these products, one of the greatest barriers from their perspective is that, they still might be using manual processes like Todd was mentioning, share drives and PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets, and they're constantly trying to gather data from their manufacturers, from the people that supply them their products. And we have to remember that manufacturers' first, order of business isn't supplying data and paperwork, it's actually manufacturing products. So those people are constantly trying to stay ahead of trends and make new products, but constantly fighting this cycle of supplying paperwork to the retailers that buy their products. So it's this constant cycle, and that barrier is how do you get out of these cycles and kind of break them to transform to this digital space and software platform. And also, I think one of the underestimated barriers is if your executive leadership doesn't see the value in a technology solution and generating revenue for them or reducing their cost, it might not surface to the top of their spending list, right? So I think that's another barrier that needs to be considered.
Okay, Wen, why don't we go to you for this question about important considerations and greatest barriers?
Thank you. I think quite a few people have talked about interoperability, yourself, Carrie. So I want to focus on the barrier of interoperability that we see it. I think there are several things, right? So first is really technology. And one of the things of the low-cost initiative is to bring all the businesses, but they have different capacity in terms of IT. You have big retailers and you have small mom-and-pop shops, right? The IT capability is different. The systems can be different. So that's just the technology. But then if you peel next to the interoperability, I think the diverse nature of the community, like any community, makes that having a single set of data to be shared almost impractical, right? Because everybody has a different set of data they want to share. And some of the thing about supply chain information is really the most guarded secret of a business. So in a broader context, how do we make sure that people can share information without imposing, a definite set of data? I think is one thing we need to address in terms of interoperability. And finally, if you extend that one step further, is really trust, right? So the example I earlier gave, you have a retailer that's selling something, but that retailer does not have a direct relationship with the farm where the hen are raised and eggs are produced, right? So GS1 called this proof connectedness problem, right? So, and that's where I think some of the new technologies that we're looking at, like blockchain technologies, could really help to bridge that kind of trust among partners who do not have a direct relationship. So I think there are a lot of problems here, and one of the things that quite a few people before me have said is standard. I think that is a point that I really want to stress too. Standard-based, it really a foundation for interoperability in the supply chain area. So GS1, for example, has a lot of good standards, EPCIs being one, and we're looking at some of the standards from W3C just to enable that kind of interoperability between different partners. Thank you.
And we'll come full circle back to you, Dan.
Yeah, great comments from everybody, and obviously I completely agree with everything everyone's saying. I want to get back just to Jane's comment about having the buy-in of the decision makers, the C-level people at the company, and it feels like, for a potential client or prospect, if you show the measurable metrics of past solutions, then yeah, you could definitely get that buy-in. But we've definitely found that you have to have the buy-in all the way down to the warehouse floor, the supply chain managers themselves. There's a bunch of education that has to go into these implementations, right? There's a fear of losing one's place within a company, fear of having to work with an overly complex system, right? You have to get over those fears. Fears of something being expensive to implement to start with. That's usually a C-level worry, or the CFO's worry as well. So once we get that education in place and we can demonstrate fully that as a supply chain manager you can increase your volumes and become a more critical part of the company by using these new solutions, then we get the excitement from everyone all the way up and down the company. We don't want anyone from the top or the bottom feeling they're going to be left out of the picture. And I think that's a huge barrier nowadays, is the fear of losing one's position or getting to something that they don't understand. And I think that education solves that most definitely.
Thanks. Well, and then speaking of education, and Wen, I'm going to come to you for this one, because we hear the words cloud and blockchain utilized a lot in the food traceability space. And I think it's still a really abstract notion for a lot of people in this particular line of work, especially, again, when we think about traceability for food safety. So Wen, if you could get started, and I'd love to hear everybody's perspective, but we have heard a lot of these common themes using the cloud or blockchain as a data repository. So can you please explain these technologies for us in layman's terms, and then more complex as you go on, and help us understand why these technologies are important for food traceability?
Thank you. So how much time do I have?
2 minutes or less.
All right. So I think from a technology perspective, actually it is pretty straightforward. I think if you talk about cloud, you're really outsource some of the capabilities, not your core business, obviously, some of the peripheral capabilities to other providers, software as a service being a perfect example, right? And what we offer is a repository, for example, for people to put their transactions in and share them so they don't have to develop that. So I think that's really, in essence, what cloud does for you. In blockchain, the way I like to say it is that if you think about cloud, you're really putting your data and systems into some other provider's facility and under some other control, operational control. But blockchain actually does one step further, because if you think about cloud, you are putting this, regardless how you distribute the data, into a single organization to manage it. And blockchain allow you to actually put that data, put that logic, put that smart contract across different organizations. And that kind of organizational diversity really talks, give you resiliency, give you trust. But forget about all that, because that's all technology, right? So let's go back to what does it mean for business, right? I think the key thing, as the previous person said, Carrie, is to reduce the barrier. Cloud actually help reduce barrier of conducting business. If you think about small business, what cloud does for them is they don't have to have that kind of in-house IT expertise. They don't have to have that kind of IT capability in-house. That reduces the barrier for conducting business. Now, blockchain, to me, is another step of reducing the barrier of conducting transactions with partners. Because now you have this technology infrastructure allow you to bridge trust, to have transparency, to have that kind of data visibility across partners. So to me, what it means really is breaking down barriers for small businesses to conduct business in an electronic way, and reducing barrier for us to have a more efficient collaborative supply chain among partners. Thank you.
Dan, what would you like to add to Wen's response?
I absolutely love Wen's response, and I completely agree. It allows different stakeholders to interact with each other through this amazing technology. We talked a little bit about interoperability and also standards as well, and if you incorporate standards as a part of the blockchain and making everyone follow those same standards and then be able to trace all the activity on a transparent chain in the future, this is how all the data will be shared in optimizing global trade in general. One thing I want to point out, from a cloud-based perspective or from a completely public blockchain, is that obviously the data in a cloud is internal to a company. People can't just dive into their cloud and see all their information. But then there's a level of trust that's lost out, right? They can manipulate their data. They can do what they want. When you have a completely public blockchain and everyone's viewing that live data at the same time, any changes to the data is viewable to all the parties and all the stakeholders. There's inherent trust in what's going on. You no longer have to trust the stakeholders involved. Everyone just automatically trusts each other because they can all see the data. I think that's going to be a huge step forward in food safety as well as all global supply chain as well. Obviously allowed to happen based on amazing technology. What's exciting about blockchain is that every single block being unique. I think that's still something that people have to understand how amazing that is, that you're viewing the unique initial block, the initial piece of data that everyone's viewing at the same time. We're no longer viewing copies. This isn't like a poster of the Mona Lisa. Everyone's viewing the Mona Lisa at the same time from anywhere around the world. And to me, that's groundbreaking right there.
That's an interesting way to view it. I appreciate that. Todd, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to think about here is it's the 24-hour response time. So we have to be able to get access to this data and get it to a sortable spreadsheet delivered back to FDA within a very short time period. And so that really leans on the need for enterprise-grade systems, whether it be cloud-based or whether it be blockchain-based. When you're looking at enterprise-grade, you need scalability to support the amount of data. You need the data security because obviously the integrity of this data is critically important. And then you need the availability, the uptime. So we need to be able to access this data, on a Friday night in order to be able to produce that within 24 hours. And I've seen some organizations and working and consulting on 204 compliance looking to their external partners in the supply chain to be able to hold this data. And I think that that's a potentially risky situation. You really want to make sure that your organization has the ability to access this data at any time that they need and be able to respond as quickly and accurately as possible. So it really drives to ensuring that it is an enterprise-grade system, whether that be cloud-based or cloud-based in blockchain or on-prem, but you need to make sure that that system is going to have the availability, security, and scalability to support that 24-hour response time when needed.
Too much to add to everybody else's, but from going on what Todd was saying about 24-hour response time, we also need to think about how we're working within a global network, right? So even though we're talking with the FDA today and we're talking US domestic, we have to understand that raw materials, ingredients are coming from around the world. So what Todd was saying, whether you're cloud-based, it allows all partners around the globe, no matter what time of day you're at, to participate in this process. And yes, the 24-hour turnaround time is pretty tight, especially when you have raw materials coming from China or Asia someplace. So having that cloud-based in the global network is very, very important. And then the interconnectedness of the data, right? This blockchain technology, being able to trace exactly what farm, what field, what plot this product ingredient came from is world-changing technology, and it's meant to help everybody in our common goals, which is to reduce food safety incidences, right? So I think that blockchain, whether it's to trace back allergens and, have your suppliers upload all their global allergens into one tool, and you can say, okay, this was on this production line, this was in this facility, and be able to, trace that type of data is tremendously helpful for everyone and all stakeholders along the chain.
So I have one add-on. If you were somebody new to this field and we're looking for a resource to read, a book, do you all have any recommendations of where somebody could start to learn?
I would recommend that one of the services that iFoodDS offers through our New Era partners, Andy Kennedy, who's previously with FDA, who was involved with writing the rule, can really consult on understanding and interpreting the rule. I recommend reaching out to resources like that to be able to first understand the implications to your business, and there's a lot of different ways to approach and solve this problem. And so there's a lot of expertise out there, and then that can then lead to a deeper understanding of your business needs and approach, essentially putting together your traceability plan that can then lead to then identifying the right technology fit for your unique business needs.
Anyone else want to add any helpful resources? Okay. Well, Jane, I'm going to start this last question with you. So in many supply chains, paper records remain dominant for capturing product and case level information between trading partners. So are there currently cost-effective solutions to automate or digitize these processes?
I think any solution that takes the massive amount of manual and offline activities out of the process and puts them into a centralized database with workflow capabilities is going to add to cost savings for every manufacturer. So again, I mentioned allergen traceability before. So let's just say you have a key piece of data that indicates an allergen should be declared and it's missed. That's going to result in a recall, which costs companies fines, loss of brand, brand standings. So it's going to cost those companies a lot more than just putting in a simple solution to help with these workflow capabilities.
Thanks, Jane. Dan?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question as well. And to be honest, when we talk to a prospect, a potential client, and they bring up, oh yeah, we use a paper-based process for this or that, that is music to our ears. We're looking for that lowest hanging fruit to find those situations where we can optimize. And obviously, as Jane mentioned, if you're using paper for a specific process and that is not the most optimal way to go about it, some of the new technologies out there make it so simple to use something like a reusable NFC chip or RFID tag. Even using, let's say, digital proof of deliveries, right? Companies are burying themselves in paper and then having to trace back exactly where something came from based on some sort of handwritten note, which gets lost, obviously. So these digital systems allowing us to take advantage of brand new technologies to incorporate it to a digital workflow, like Jane's saying, creating a lot of dynamic data as well. One other thing that we've actually had a lot of success with Morpheus is also bringing in OCR, optical character recognition, to allow the ease of transition from paper documents to pull the significant data points, making them digital, and contributing them to an entire digitalized process. That's sort of like eased the digital onset, I guess you can say. So great question. And once again, paper, let's move over to digital for sure.
And Todd, I'll come over to you next because I know you talked a little bit about this when you were mentioning point of activity and reduction of duplicity there. But is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, in many cases, paper analog processes are the easiest thing to do, but they're not the most efficient. They're not they don't optimize for business profitability. Implementing and digitizing can actually make the labor costs significantly lower, and the cost of labor, as we all know, continues and will continue to, escalate. And so this isn't a problem that is going to come back around and allow organizations to scale from a profitability perspective. So you really need to look at the total end-to-end impact on the business. The other part of digitization, moving from paper to digital, is really enabling beyond compliance insights. Being in compliance with 204 is obviously job number one, but our position is let's not just implement this incredible traceability capability just to respond to a food safety inquiry that may or may not ever come. Implement this technology beyond compliance so that you can have a better insight into your inventory and your flow of product through the supply chain, optimize freshness, reduce shrink and food waste, and increase product quality so that you win more business, you drive more top line revenue for your business. If you're on the right side of the supply chain, you're delivering higher quality product to consumers who are delighted with that. They're getting more nutritious food that lasts longer. So really utilize the digitization, not just for compliance, but also to really optimize the supply chain and business overall to deliver, fresher, higher quality product with greater sustainability through reductions in food waste and shrink.
Thanks, Todd. Wen, any final thoughts on this?
Our experience actually is probably in another domain, not in the food area, and probably come after, I think, what Dan was saying, after they have done the OCR. For example, what we did with FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, was, believe it or not, they have like paper records locked away in towers, ATC voice communication on tape or hard drive. So, we were looking at that effort, and it's hard. So I would say, the final solution, in my opinion, really have a few components. First is a repository. You need a repository, a standard compliant repository to keep the digitalized transaction data. And we talk a lot about compliance, that's important. Second is metadata. In our opinion, I guess metadata is actually extremely important. And you can use some of the technologies like natural language processing, for example, to extract data from the raw data to get some of the metadata. And some metadata are easy, like the media and the data, but if you look at the nature, it is a transaction, it is purchase order, and that becomes a little bit more challenging. So some NLP technologies could help. But in many ways, this whole idea of conversion, I think, is going to be very labor-intensive and time-consuming. But once you have done that, as I think Dan and Todd both said, and Jane, the benefit is really allow you to manage information and share information more effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Okay, so those were all the questions that I had. Maybe we can just take a minute to go around. I can start with Wen. If there's anything you want to cover, take 30 seconds for concluding remarks.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to share our experiences, and I really learned a lot from all the panelists and Carrie yourself here. Just looking forward to continue collaborating with you guys.
Thank you, everyone, for participating today. I learned a tremendous amount as well, especially for this particular space and all the different levels of stakeholders within the supply chain. And I just want to say that for those companies who are considering a digital transformation like this, your future state is going to be worth it when you can actually start making those decisions proactively, like Todd was saying. We don't need to just react on compliance. Let's drive the business towards products our consumers want to buy, and make sure that we are in compliance with those, make the claims and certifications that we can on the products that we manufacture.
I completely agree with Jane, of course, and Wen as well. Great comments from you guys. And I think we focused a lot on specifically, the FDA and what companies are going to do to optimize their supply chains based on food safety. And supply chains in general should be following the same sort of path, globally. And we're seeing the same sort of efforts from other organizations, the United Nations as well, in order to optimize. And I think that, we're talking a lot about the bottom line and, C-levels wanting this for part of their company. But at the end of the day, 90% of all CO2 emissions for businesses are coming out of their supply chain. If we're optimizing supply chain, if we fix supply chains, we're fixing the world. And I think that pulling that data together, getting these standard approaches of interoperability so we can optimize what we're doing with supply chains for food safety specifically is a huge factor in actually cleaning up the environment in general. It actually focuses on the problem of where emissions are coming from specifically. So I think that should be pointed out as well, and I'm excited to be part of that solution as well.
And Todd?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this panel. It's been a really engaging conversation. I think that my guidance to those that are listening to this is get together a plan. Start to put together what you need to, the learnings that you need to get in order to develop that plan, in order to start to execute and deliver against January 26th deadline. It may sound like it's 2.5 years away, but this is a complex problem, but it's not unsurmountable. It's a problem that there's a lot of expertise out there from the vendors on this panel, as well as others out there that can really help provide guidance on how to get in compliance. and how to actually realize greater benefit beyond the compliance. I think that there's a unique opportunity here to enable the complete supply chain with increased transparency to really optimize quality and freshness, reduce food waste, improve sustainability efforts. And so get started now and start to get on board. As we get to the deadline, obviously resources are going to be much more constrained, much tighter. And so those that get started earlier are going to have much better success. They're going to end up with a much more beneficial implementation and solution to the problem, as opposed to those that wait and try to tackle this in the last couple months before the deadline.
Thanks, Todd. And thank you all so much for being part of this and taking time to join us to help. One of the common themes I heard from all of you is that the need for people to have awareness, to have education about what this initiative really is. I know some of my key takeaways are in common themes. This is bigger than food safety. There's more work to be done to demonstrate what those gains are beyond just being compliant with a rule that FDA has put out there. So that's definitely a takeaway in a space I can see us all trying to work towards making sure people understand that additional impact. I heard a lot about how technology is coming about to help reduce barriers, whether they're global barriers, domestic supply chain barriers, information sharing barriers. But in order to break down those barriers, we need people to be aware of what they are, how they impact their business processes. I also heard a lot about, especially in the beginning, how important it is for the technology and food safety sector to come together to address challenges in point, being in there, understanding those business practices and making sure solutions are created to meet the need of a business operator. So really just some really wonderful takeaways, and appreciate you guys spending some time with us today to talk through that. So again, thank you, Wen, thank you, Jane, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Todd. If anybody out there wants more information, please visit FDA's low or no cost webinar. And you can access that from FDA's New Era for Smarter Food Safety webpage. Always feel free to reach out for if you have any comments or additional questions. And we do hope that this is the first of several webinars in this series. So we hope to see you all again next time, and thank you everyone for watching.